Halloween Horror Nights, tips and tricks you're dying to know. Hey everybody, Rick and Nikki here.
Hello.
And this is our ultimate Halloween Horror Nights tips and tricks video. We have tips for beginners, tips for pros, big tips, little tips. Let's get to it. And we've made it to the first scare zone they're going to have this year here on Hollywood Boulevard. It's Graveyard Deadly Unrest. On All Hallows Eve, a dark storm descends upon a cemetery and awakens long dead spirits. These specters rise from their graves to capture souls for all eternity. No one living can escape them. The first tip is one more for beginners, but what is it, Nikki?
Go with a trusted buddy.
Well, Universal, they do say never go alone.
Right, but I'm being more specific. Someone who you really trust.
Yeah, the key word for that tip is trusted.
Yes.
Okay, maybe I'm trusted, maybe I'm not. I don't know yet.
No, I don't think so.
Because I'm gonna piggyback off that, because I know one of your favorite tips is to hide behind somebody. Hide behind your buddy. Yeah, walking through those houses, crouch behind your trusted buddy. It's what Nikki does to begin with.
Sometimes, yes, I do, through houses.
Now here's the thing, why she says trusted, and I don't know if I'm trusted because I'm so tall, I can see ahead of everyone, I can see where the scares are, so I kind of speed up or slow down to make Nikki, or twist my body to make sure Nikki gets the good scare. So maybe I'm not a trusted buddy, but I'm a fun buddy.
And speaking of warm up in the scare zones first.
Kind of get your bearings with the scare actors walking through the scare zones. A little less intense than the houses, right?
For sure. Sit on, you know, a bench on the sideline and kind of people watch as they go through the scare zones too.
Yeah, people watching, another very good tip. Kind of warm up for a house. If you want a little less thrilling walk through a scare zone, I would suggest a trick would be to carry a drink. More often than not, they'll try. Some of them might be too into their role. But typically, if you're carrying a drink, the scare actors in the scare zone will try to avoid you to help prevent you from being scared and spilling your drink on yourself or them.
Right. Now, even getting through scare zones, if you walk kind of on the outside, you know, skirted edges, they won't get you either. But I will tell you that engaging with the scare actors in a scare zone makes it so much more fun.
It does.
It really does. It takes kind of the scare out of it and makes it more of a fun activity.
But the opposite of interacting with the scare actors, like we said, find a bench in the scare zone or a chair or some type of stoop or something and just watch. That's fun to do.
Oh, that's entertaining in and of itself, other people getting scared. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Watch other people be scared. Very entertaining.
And the next scare zone is Scarecrow Cursed Soil. At an abandoned farm, Scarecrow sentinels have risen from the crust of the earth to haunt souls and seek revenge. They'll harvest the screams of those who dare to enter this dilapidated barn.
And now let's turn the page. Let's do some basic tips. Back to basics, Nikki.
Back to the basics. Basic number one, wear comfortable shoes.
Now, it's not just the walking around the park that you have to deal with, it's the standing in line. If you don't have Express, you'll be standing in line a long time on those feet.
Absolutely.
Comfortable shoes.
For sure. Next thing is that stay hydrated. Oh my gosh, you are going to sweat the first month and a half at least of HHN.
September in Florida, still brutal. Make sure you're drinking that water and stuff. Not just the HHN specialty drinks.
Exactly.
Get the water too. Now here's a tip, not so basic, a little more than basic. Wearing earplugs inside of the haunted houses.
Sure enough, sometimes the scares aren't always with a scare actor. Sometimes it's a puff of air or a loud noise or a slamming door.
Yeah.
So having earplugs can help like cut down on the overstimulation.
Just enough to tone down that sensory of the loud noises.
Exactly.
Here's a tip. Kinda an important one. Utilize the stay and scream zones if you're already in the park. You don't have to leave the park. If you already have a day ticket or annual pass and you have HHN tickets, don't leave the park and come back in. You can stay in the park. They have special holding areas for us.
Absolutely, and each holding area will lead you to certain houses.
Like New York City is typically one of the holding zones. 3 to 4 houses close to that holding zone, and I like that one. It has the better shade. It has Finnegan's.
It sure does.
Now with the Central Park holding zone, there's a couple houses over there by MIB.
Right.
So make sure you check out the map and you know where the houses are and know which holding zone you want to use. Now, I mentioned New York City. I mentioned the Springfield Central Park holding zone.
Yes.
Now there's also one, at least last year there was, at the Today Cafe, because I stayed in that.
Yeah, that one's kind of cool and a little different than the other ones because...
Well, it's not really close to any like haunted house.
No.
Especially this year because there's no house in Shrek. But you get a view of the opening ceremony for HHN.
Yeah, that opening ceremony is actually one not to miss. It really gets the crowd hyped and really sets the tone for your evening. It's a lot of fun.
Now, I don't know if that Today Cafe holding zone is going to be here this year, but it was there last year. I stayed in it myself, so I know.
Yeah.
So there you go. Just kind of utilize those zones and make sure you're picking one that's close to those houses you're really interested in hitting up first. And all that kind of dovetails nicely into another tip or trick.
For sure. Come with the game plan. So, you know, watch some videos, do your research, know which houses you want to hit at first and what screen zone you want to stay in.
Yeah, now I mentioned like if you're a pass holder or if you have a day ticket to go into those the holding zones, now if you're not a pass holder and you don't have a day ticket, you can purchase Scream Early tickets that lets you into those zones.
Right, the Scream Early tickets is about $35.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
No, it isn't. And speaking of that, we recommend that you get your tickets ahead of time. You don't want to come here on that day and have to stand in line to get the ticket and then stand in line again with all the crowds trying to come in.
Now always with Halloween Horror Nights, there are 5 official scare zones, but most often than not, there's 1 or 2 unofficial scare zones, like here in Springfield, perhaps some maniacs with chainsaws running around, perhaps.
What's wrong? It's okay.
So this next item, more of some advice than I would say like a tip or a trick. But typically, you're gonna have smaller crowds for Halloween Horror Nights during the weekdays and larger crowds during like Friday and Saturday night.
Oh sure, we've experienced this ourselves.
So it's just a matter of what you want. If you want like smaller crowds and maybe some shorter wait times, come during one of the weekdays. But a large crowd often means an exciting atmosphere. Now here's some advice or a tip I feel like we have to give. I don't like giving this tip so much because it does come with an extra cost.
Yeah, we don't really want you to spend any more money than you have to.
Yeah, but it's purchasing express passes.
Yeah, and sometimes it's worth it, and those express passes are nice.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're going to be here for just like one night.
Oh yeah.
You almost have to have the express to get through all of the housing.
And if you don't want to do express passes for you and your whole family, it's okay.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. It's family bonding time in line. You can play Heads Up.
We see that a lot.
Oh my God, that's the only time I ever see that played, by the way.
It's Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes.
But some of my fondest memories, like family memories at Halloween Horror Nights, is hanging out with our daughters and like your dad in line.
Oh yeah, just hanging out, chilling, talking.
So it's not the end of the world if you don't want to spend all that money on express because it can be pricey, especially for a whole family.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just, you know, have nice family time in line. And like Nikki said, play Heads Up. And there's 2 live shows this year.
There are.
Nightmare Fuel, Wildfire. I like that one. I think that might be my favorite.
I have no idea why.
But there's also a show at the Lagoon.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that one this year.
It's called Ghoulish. That's always a fun time watching the fountain and the water and everything. And
yeah, for sure.
all the imagery portrayed are projected onto the water. So
yeah, speaking of that one, you know, it's nice to get your HHN snacks and drinks and hanging out and watch that show. Yeah. It's a good opportunity to, you know, do 2 things at once.
Now the thing with this show here at the stadium, Nightmare Fuel, Wildfire, there's no house over here by MIB this year.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, how it's really like packed and crowded and
bottlenecked.
Really bottleneck, exactly. Yeah. This year, there should be a lot better flow in and out because there isn't a house back here.
I love good flow. And this is just a friendly reminder, Diagon Alley does not participate in Halloween Horror Nights. Nothing special for HHN happening in here. The San Francisco area of the park is home to a scare zone called Conjur the Dark. An evil sorceress has entered twisted stone ruins and called forth monstrosities from dark dimensions. This Halloween, blood will feed her army of the night. And how about this tip or piece of advice? Halloween Horror Nights specialty food and drink. Try it.
Oh, for sure. I will tell you some of my favorite food items have actually come from these special events.
Now, a lot of people love and a lot of people hate the pizza fries. They are a Halloween Horror Nights staple.
It is.
But each like food kiosk or food tent, all different types of food. Try it all.
The next scare zone in the New York section of the park is called Sweet Revenge. The sweets from Major Sweets Candy Company have turned these 1950s kids into crazed killers. With pint-sized costume maniacs roaming the streets, Halloween will be a night of trick or treat mayhem. And here's another tip. We do need to mention it, but it does come with an additional cost.
And that tip involves the extras that you can purchase for Halloween Horror Nights, such as the RIP tour. Now those start at around $300. And then we have Behind the Screams, Unmasking the Horror, starts around $80. And Halloween Horror Nights Scare Actor Dining, that starts at around $55. So they're fun stuff to do, and we're gonna cover some of that, but it comes with that caveat, little extra dough. And speaking of the Scare Actors Dining, since sadly the Monsters Cafe is closed this year, the Scare Actor Dining will be at Louis. And we're going.
It's the first time back, in a couple years, so I'm excited.
Me too.
It's a good time, really.
Now the thing is, the Monsters Cafe is leaving forever. It's gone for good.
Yep.
It might show up at Epic, but it's not coming back here to studios. So Louis might be the new permanent home of Scare Actor Dining.
So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel because we are going to be doing a whole in-depth thing on the Scare Actor Dining experience.
Yeah, and maybe another extra or two. And what are we standing in front of, Nikki?
The Halloween Horror Nights Tribute Store.
I think it would be a good tip or good advice to check this out during Halloween Horror Nights, or even during the daytime, because it is open for daytime guests.
Oh, that's right, it sure is, and they've got some awesome snacks in there that are all specialized towards it. Oh, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, so if you want some HHN treats, but you're not going to HHN, check out the Tribute Store. It's open for everybody. And the last official scare zone here in Production Central, actually I call it Construction Central, is Horrors of Halloween. The Pumpkin Lord, the spirit of Halloween, has returned to take over this year's event, summoning hordes of fiendish creatures, including demons, ghosts, and witches. Terror has taken root. And here's a small piece of advice or a tip. Laugh. It might be scary here, but you're safe.
Oh, totally. I think I wasted so many years being so afraid and not wanting to come. It's different than watching a scary movie. It really is. It's become one of my favorite, Universal events for sure. And, this might sound crazy, but if you're scared, try coming multiple times. Yes, the first time, even for me, every season, the first night is always the scariest.
Yeah.
But then I kind of build up a resistance or an immunity to it, where I just start, by the end of the time, I'm laughing.
Just pure fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. So just keep that in mind if deciding to come.
I think it's fun to be scared, or at least it's fun to scare Nikki. I usually do the scarings. Yep, Nikki resisted me for decades, and now it's her favorite thing. And here's my #1 tip, though I am biased. The #1 tip is to watch my ratings video. I'm going to rate each house on a scale of 1 to 5 little boos, and that way you'll get an idea of what to expect.
Exactly, because if you know that a house is less scary and you're a beginner, that might be the house that you want to start with.
Yeah, you warm up with that one.
Yeah, the more you know, the less scary it may be.
Save the 5 boo house to the end.
Exactly, perfect.
But as always,
don't miss the screams and don't miss the scares.
right on. See you next time.